Revealed, she was forced to marry a servant, but his incredible love transformed her life forever. Claire stared blankly at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, dark shadows under her eyes betraying her sleepless nights. The gentle hum of the faculty lounge echoed in the distance, a world she had once belonged to, now feeling like a distant memory. Just last month, she had felt free, passionate in her secret relationship with Mark, the fellow professor who ignited her spirit in ways money never could. But those fleeting days turned to ash when her father had discovered their love, interjecting his iron grip on Claire's life with a brutal ultimatum: marry John, the family's gardener, or lose everything. The weight of her father's ultimatum crashed down like a leaden weight, making her resent the powerful expectations that dictated her every move. Marrying John, a man whose hands had spent years toiling in the dirt, felt like sacrilege to the pristine image of privilege she had grown up with. But as much as she resented it, she understood the cold, hard truth. Familial loyalty, impeccable legacy preservation, these were the chains binding her to this life of wealth, and now she was wrapped firmly in their grasp. Every glance down at her ring, a simple, unadorned band, was a reminder of her lost freedom. John, with his easy smile and gentle spirit, attempted to make their union a true partnership, creating a warm nest that smelled of freshly baked bread instead of distant, hollow echoes of wealth. But with every moment spent in their modest home, moments filled with laughter and undeniably good food, the guilt of abandoning her dreams loomed larger. It was an emotional duel, conflicting visions of the life she thought she wanted versus the raw, messy love she never knew she needed. As Claire sorted through their shed one afternoon, she stumbled across John's forgotten wooden creations. Chairs, tables, they were beautiful, crafted with a heart that pulsed with creativity, yet held down by the weight of societal expectations. Each piece whispered to her ambition, igniting a spark she thought long extinguished. She envisioned markets bustling with busy vendors, where John's art could shine beyond the shadows of his class. But would her father allow that? The thought knotted her stomach. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As John's artistic talents began to gain traction, Claire felt blossoming pride intertwined with rising fears. What if her father found out? Could she bear the shame of embracing someone of a lower status? Her mind raced as the implications tormented her. John's opportunity to showcase his work at a national exhibition presented a bittersweet opportunity, the kind that might help him break free. But at what cost to her? In desperate silence, Claire grappled with the anxiety lodged in her chest, imagining her father's scorn, his piercing gaze dissecting her very essence. Just as she thought she had chosen a path, a confrontation shattered her wavering resolve. Her father's fury ignited like a wildfire. In that moment, the walls around her seemed to close in. Should she risk disinheritance for a love that felt as real as it was risky? Staring down the path of her shapeless future, doubt overwhelmed her. Was love enough to conquer the demand for loyalty that echoed in her ears? The lure of familial expectations tugged at her heart, leading her to question if she'd ever untethered herself from this gilded cage. Would she find the courage to forge a new world with John, or would the echoes of her father's disdain seal their fate forever? Claire's heartbeat thundered in her ears as she stood in the kitchen, the scent of freshly baked bread wafting through the modest space. John hummed softly as he kneaded dough, and for a fleeting moment, she allowed herself to smile at the cozy scene. Yet, the happiness felt strained, like an uninvited guest at a party, celebrating her internal conflict. Sipping her tea, she leaned against the counter and pondered John's art and the possibility of a life lived unshackled from her father's expectations. This budding idea felt like a wildfire igniting her soul. Yet, accompanying that fire were fear and gilded duality that left her feeling trapped. For every dream that coiled around John's ambition, a stark voice reminded her of the life she had been groomed to uphold. "Are you all right, Claire?" John's voice snapped her from a reverie. His brow furrowed with concern, and she recognized the warmth in those eyes, a safe harbor in her stormy sea of doubts. "Yes, just thinking," she replied, forcing a smile. "About the exhibition? I've been nervous, but this is my chance." To a flicker of hope danced across his face. Claire swallowed hard. Would success for him mean an impending reckoning for her? "It's a wonderful opportunity, John. There's so much potential for you." Her voice wavered as she considered her loss. He took a step closer, excitement lighting his eyes. "If I could just sell a few pieces, maybe I could open a small studio." Could we?" She interrupted, the question hanging like a distant echo. Could they truly envision a life beyond the expectations tied to their disparate worlds? Or was John's dream an illusion that would only widen their divide? Retracting her own uncertainty felt like denial. Claire needed to face her fears head-on. The exhibition loomed like a mountain to scale, and she needed to be the co-pilot, supporting him through the treacherous path ahead. But what about her own ambition? Was there space for both of them in this reality? She glanced around the cozy kitchen nestled in an unassuming neighborhood. The laughter of a meal shared dangerously close to the surface, yet layered with unsaid anxieties. Days passed, and with them, an ache of energy surged in her. The possibilities of John's career intertwined with her swirling thoughts of teaching, her own aspirations suppressed for too long. She started painting again, the canvas dotted with colors that reflected both their lives, the highs, the lows, the hope and the love that crafted their reality. Painting became her escape. Every stroke was a rebellion against the confines of her previous life, an assertion of self that had long been suffocated by her father's desires. Yet within that liberation, another battle brewed, more nuanced, her own parental loyalty at war with her burgeoning independence. It was time to confront her father. She needed, to express to him the woman she was evolving into beyond the title of his obedient daughter. This confrontation would demand her to evolve beyond his tightly grip, nudging closer toward the woman she yearned to become. After days of mentally rehearsing the conversation, she finally stood before her father, her heart pounding. Those piercing eyes met hers, and she straightened her back, ready to unveil the layers of uncertainty and determination weighing heavily on her. "Dad, I need to talk about life, my life. I feel ready to live it for myself," she declared, her voice steady. The air hung thick as her father opened his mouth, preparing for a response that could very well shatter or rebuild the path before her. As the fear of rejection loomed over the fragile conversation, Claire understood that this moment would determine the course of her burgeoning identity. Little did she realize, the clash ahead would be far more revealing than either of them anticipated. Would she be strong enough to claim her voice in this male-dominated world? Her father's narrow gaze bored into her with intensity, a silent challenge that sent a shiver down Claire's spine. The tension was palpable, like the thick aroma of dough rising in the oven. He took a breath, seemingly weighing his words as though they had the power to tilt the world off its axis. "What do you mean, live your life for yourself? You've always had the best opportunities ahead of you, Claire. You should be grateful." Those words unraveled in her mind, each syllable wrapping around her throat like a noose. Gratitude? Was that all he saw her as, an extension of his ambitions? The rebellion she'd nurtured over the past weeks hung perilously in the balance, caught between his expectations and her aspirations. "Dad, I am grateful, but I can't be what you want me to be. I need to find my own path," she pressed, her voice firmer now, underlining the resolution that had bubbled beneath the surface for too long. He recoiled slightly, shock etching itself into his features. "And this art nonsense John is so enamored with? You believe that S.A. future? I raised you better than to waste your time on impractical dreams." Impractical dreams. The term stabbed her. The brushstrokes on her canvas, The texture of paint under her fingertips, they were her voice. Art isn't nonsense, Dad, she retorted, the defiance igniting a flame she could no longer ignore. It's an expression of who I am, and it's not bound to your success or how you define me. For the first time, his expression shifted, a flicker of concern crossing his face. You'll end up heartbroken, Claire. A life that pursues recognition in art is unstable. What about your job? The academic career we VE built for you? His tone morphed from commanding to pleading, now desperately attempting to pull her back into the fold. What about it? Her voice softened, revealing the weight of the burden he had placed on her. I've been chasing a shadow, and I'm tired. I want to teach, to inspire others, to allow them the freedom I'm fighting for. John's face hovered behind her thoughts, a reminder of the warmth she craved. The partnership they could build if only she could forge her own identity free of past dictations. His brow furrowed deeper, the conflict layered thickly in silence. She took a restrained breath, pressing on. I'm not asking for your approval, but I need you to understand I am not the girl who needs your direction. Then why do you still live under my roof? The challenge hung between them, cold and harsh, almost like a fist colliding with flesh. She faltered, momentarily trapped in the chase for independence. To support myself? Because it's practical? A bitter laugh escaped her lips. But practicality won't fulfill me, nor will it give me the courage to face the world I so desperately want to engage with. I love John, and I want to share this journey with him. The stark honesty of her confession seemed to crack the facade of their conversation as her father's demeanor shifted minutely. She saw resignation wash over him, the fight draining from his eyes. John, you love him? This is about him? At that moment, the air shifted as if a door had swung open to an unknown possibility. Yes, it is, she breathed, sensing within herself a gradual but irreversible transformation. She was more than just a reflection of her father's legacy. She was a woman with her own dreams and aspirations. For a moment, his gaze softened as though he were trying to truly see her. I only want what's best for you, Claire. I know, she sighed, feeling the weight of the past strain against the potential of her future. But what's best for me may not be what you envision. I need to figure that out on my own. And just like that, Claire felt a sliver of freedom. The road ahead was still uncertain, but she had taken a step away from the confines of expectation that had long haunted her. As their conversation lingered in the air like the fragrant scent of baking bread, Claire sensed the ground shift beneath her. But thoughts of John flooded her mind. Would he support her choice? Or would the strains of their pursuit divide them? Would her burgeoning independence bite her back, leading her deeper into the wilderness of her own heart? Little did she know, the decision lurking just around the corner would challenge all she had fought for. Would her journey towards self-identity bring her closer to her dreams or send everything she loved tumbling down? The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the remnants of Claire's confrontation with her father. She felt the warmth on her face, but couldn't reconcile it with the chill in her heart. As she stood over a steaming mug of coffee, Claire realized the path ahead was murky yet enticing, like an uncharted canvas waiting to be filled with vivid colors. With shaky hands, she wrapped her fingers around the mug, anchoring herself in that moment. Today she had decided to visit the art studio. The thought of facing her blank canvas was daunting, but it was also exhilarating. For too long, she had allowed her father's voice to dictate her worth, but now she craved the freedom only self-expression could provide. The memories of her father's words collided in her mind, but each recalled phrase strengthened her resolve. It was time to reclaim her narrative. Entering the studio, the subtle scent of paint and turpentine enveloped her like a comforting embrace. She had missed this realm, where every stroke unleashed fragments of her soul. Before her canvases, she hesitated. What should she paint? Would the resulting piece even matter? As she contemplated the empty space, thoughts of John crept in. He had always uplifted her spirit, encouraged her artistic endeavors while teasing her insecurities. Would he still believe in her dreams now that she had taken a diverging path? Her heart raced at the thought of him, both a refuge and a challenge. Claire set her coffee aside and squeezed the paint tubes, allowing vibrant colors to emerge, each burst a reminder of her potential. The first brushstroke was an act of defiance against doubt, a splash of crimson alive with emotion. A shadow deep inside her whispered fear that this ambition could crumble, leaving her vulnerable and exposed. As she painted, she met each brushstroke with a question: why do you need this? What does this mean for you? A vision began to take shape. Swirling forms transformed into a landscape echoing her feelings of independence and uncertainty, yet also enlightenment. This was the story she needed to tell, a reflection of her journey towards self-actualization. The vivid hues morphed into a palette of her emotions, raw and unfiltered. Claire surrendered to the process, immersing herself in the feeling of creation, where every sweep of the brush became a note in the melody of her newfound self. Hours slipped away, yet her focus felt unwavering. Suddenly, the door creaked open. John appeared, his presence grounding her. "I came to see how you're doing," he said, a smile transforming his features. Walking closer, he caught a glimpse of her work, and the awe in his expression fueled her determination. "Wow, Claire, this is incredible. It really speaks to me," he exclaimed. His praise threaded through her heart, sending warmth lighting her chest. "I'm trying to embrace this side of me," she responded, a hint of vulnerability escaping in her voice. "I want to create my own narrative." John studied her, his eyes piercing through to the essence of her struggle. "I've always believed in you. But are you ready to face more than just the canvas? What about your dad's expectations? He seemed intense last night." His words struck a chord. Unease spread through her, reflected on the palette. "I feel like navigating this independence is a battle, John. My father might never understand." "I get it." He leaned closer, sincerity outlined in his eyes. "But remember, this journey is about you. It's okay to let others go if they hold you back." The weight of his words sank into her skin, pushing her to reconsider. Perhaps it was necessary to confront not only her father, but her own fears. The portrait before her transformed. What began as colors to challenge her father morphed into a symbol of her inner strength. Could she defy expectations and still find herself whole? Claire abruptly placed her brush down. "You're right. I need to find the courage to tell my father that I won't compromise my future any longer." Suddenly, a thrill coursed through her. Her independence was more than a desire. It was a declaration. But what would it mean when she faced her father again? Would the confrontation solidify her resolve or shatter her spirit once more? The choices ahead weren't simply about art, love, or rebellion. They represented a fight for her identity. The faint hum of determination resonated in her heart. As she looked back at John, she felt a rush of motivation. The next step was clear, yet daunting. The time had come to face her father again, unyielding and whole. Claire's heart raced at the thought. Would this lead her down a path of empowerment or set ablaze the bridges she was still trying to build? The time had come to confront not just her father, but also the very definition of who she was becoming. Standing before her canvas, the interplay of colors sparking within her slowly faded as thoughts of her impending confrontation with her father took center stage. Claire inhaled deeply, anchoring herself in the moment, preparing for the waves of uncertainty that accompanied the task ahead. Her heart thudded in her chest, each beat underscoring a profound realization. She was not merely fighting against her father's expectations, but also redefining herself in a world that had often cast her as a shadow. With each brushstroke, she had begun crafting her narrative not just for herself, but for her father, too. She envisioned her words as splashes of color on the canvas of their relationship, vibrant yet chaotic, harmonizing the discord that had long persisted. This realization ignited a fire within her. Perhaps this confrontation could serve as a catalyst for change, not just for her, but for the both of them. What would it take to articulate her needs without negating his love? Claire brushed her fingers across the freshly painted landscape, tracing the vivid lines. Each curve represented a promise, an unyielding shape of commitment to where she was headed. That promise pulsated in her chest, a pulse that only quickened as she envisioned her father's response. The drive to seek understanding loomed large. Would he embrace her expansion or resist it? Not knowing how the outcome would unfold unnerved her, but those fears began to transform into anticipation. As with any significant brushstroke, she needed to make it count. Accuracy mattered, but so did intention. Finishing her painting for the day, she felt a sense of closure. The canvas now echoed the tumult of her heart and the depths of her resolve. Stepping back, she took in her creation, a blend of chaos transforming into clarity. A whisper inside urged her to schedule the conversation. Rinsing her brushes, Claire's mind drifted back to John, the steady companion in her creative journey. Whatever insights he'd provided would become essential in her preparation. How did he manage his relationships without losing himself? Could she draw inspiration from that? What if each word she practiced became a brushstroke, merging the distinct colors of her truth into a more profound painting of reconciliation? Back in her apartment, she prepared to meet John again. An internal dialogue bubbled within her, an amalgamation of hope and apprehension shaping her psyche. Upon entering her favorite coffee shop, the familiar smell of espresso and pastries wrapped around her like a comforting shawl. A few moments later, she spotted John, his expression warm yet discerning, a reminder of the support he consistently offered. "Hey, ready to dive into those thoughts you said you've been having?" he asked, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. "I painted something today. I'm still trying to figure out how I will talk to my dad," she replied, her heart tingling with the shared vulnerability. "But that doesn't mean I'm not terrified. Fear can be a powerful motivator, Claire. What you've done on that canvas says a lot. Transformation often starts in something seemingly innocuous." John took a sip of his coffee and met her gaze. "You've painted a journey. Now, let's talk about how to convey it." As they discussed her plan, Claire's conviction grew. They dissected the possibilities and pitfalls, relevant metaphors, and real emotions, each discussion adding layers to her understanding of confrontation. John encouraged her to embrace honesty as her greatest weapon, the ultimate brush that could wield colors previously unimagined. Yet an unsettling thought lingered. As she prepared to confront her father, she would be stepping onto a battlefield far more complex than canvases. Would her vulnerability be misconstrued? Or would it be a means to discuss not just her needs, but the cracks in their relationship? "Whatever happens, just remember to breathe through it," John advised, his encouragement steadying her nerves. "Your voice matters." Claire nodded, the gravity of her next steps ringing true. She departed from their meeting armed with clarity, a combination of fear and exhilaration propelling her toward the confrontation she dreaded yet needed. As she stepped out into the New York night, determination ignited within her. The weight of the moment was about to collide with her father's expectations. Could she transform the discord into a breathtaking fusion of acceptance? Or would the clash between aspiration and tradition echo like a tragic melody? The blend of possibilities surged through her as she approached her father's home, hand trembling slightly over the doorknob. Would this be the moment she emerged with a newfound sense of self? Or would it unravel everything she had fought to build? She knew that the time for answers was upon her. And for the first time, Claire felt ready to face whatever form that answer might take. Claire stood at the threshold of her father's home. The door loomed like a portal into an uncharted territory. The weight of every brushstroke, every conversation with John, felt concentrated in that moment. She took a deep breath, allowing it to settle the chaos swirling within her. Her resolve had been fortified by the conversation she had held. This was her moment to transform uncertainty into clarity, perception into reality. As she pushed the door open, the creak resonated through the still air. Her father, a solid figure seated at his usual spot in the living room, looked up, his brows furrowed slightly, a collection of unspoken questions floating between them. She could sense the familiar comfort of their home struggle against the tension she introduced. "Claire, you're home early," he said, masking his concern with casual ease. "Yes, I wanted to talk," she replied. Her voice trembled like the first stroke on a canvas, raw yet hopeful. His eyes narrowed slightly, but not in hostility. She could see the flickering worry, the premonition that this conversation would not be a simple exchange. It was time to dismantle the barriers and speak her truth. "I've been painting," she finally confessed, the words a soft whisper escaping her lips. Each syllable carried the burden of her uncharted emotions. She could feel the vulnerability intermingling with determination. "And it's made me realize how much I've hidden behind expectations, both yours and my own." He remained silent, but she could read the shifting gears in his mind. Walling off his emotions had always been easier than confronting them. "Painting is more than just color," she continued, the cadence of her voice gaining strength. "It's a personal expression, a dialogue between what's inside and what's outside. Just like my life, I've been living according to a script you wrote for me, but I need to write my own." With her heart pounding in her chest, Claire leaned forward, bare and unguarded. "I can't continue to exist in a world of unspoken rules and expectations. If I am to be truly free, I need your support to carve my own path." The shadows cast upon her father's face deepened as he processed her words. His silence felt like a vast chasm between them, one that she was desperately attempting to bridge. "I understand you want what's best for me, but that hasn't always aligned with my desires," she pressed on. "I've thought about this for a long time. I want to pursue my art, not as a hobby, but as my career. It's not a phase, it's my calling." The tension was thick, palpable in the air. He shifted his weight in the armchair, a subtle sign of the internal struggle unfolding within him. Claire had feared this moment, her insides twisted with apprehension. Would he contest her dreams, or would he lift her under his wing? "Do you remember when I was little?" she recalled, longing for that connection they once shared. "You painted our backyard together. I felt alive and seen. I want to feel that way again, not just in flashbacks, but in my choices moving forward." Her father's gaze softened for a flicker, reflecting a shadow of the bond they once had. Yet, apprehension loomed, a reminder of the expectations he nurtured. "But what will people think? They expect you to follow a certain path." His words landed like stones, but she wouldn't let them weigh her down. "I can no longer prioritize their opinion over my happiness. It isn't about them, it's about who I am." As the silence stretched, Claire clenched her fists, forcing herself to hold steady. An unexpected wave of empathy washed over her as she realized her father was grappling with the loss of the daughter he envisioned. "I don't want to disappoint you," she whispered finally, vulnerability spilling freely. "But I need to do this for myself." The room thickened with unspoken emotions, each heartbeat a ticking clock. Claire held her breath, waiting for his response. Just as her father opened his mouth, his phone rang sharply, interrupting the fragile moment. Glancing at the screen, he hesitated, then answered, his face slipping back into a mask of composure. "Sorry, excuse me." He stood and walked away, leaving Claire on the precipice of hope and fear, the uncertain bridge still stretching between them. In that moment, she felt the weight of the confrontation swell within her, a delicate balance between what she had spoken and what remained unaddressed. What if his silence was acceptance? Or was it a temporary retreat from his reality? Each moment of waiting grew more intense as her thoughts raced. Was this truly the beginning of their reconciliation, or merely a pause before another wave of resistance crashed down? As seconds turned to minutes, Claire embraced the uncertainty, realizing that her journey of self-definition wasn't solely hinging on this conversation. Clarity gripped her. She was prepared for whatever lay ahead. Perhaps confronting her father was not just about revealing herself, but also about understanding him anew. And as her father returned, Claire sensed the air shift. A new chapter awaited them both, fraught with possibility, yet steeped in risk. Claire could feel the emotional undertow pulling at her, the churning uncertainty thickening the air around her as her father walked back into the room. The phone call had momentarily severed their connection, but now it felt more pressing than ever to reclaim that lost space between them. He returned to his seat, attempting to mask the disruption under a facade of casual indifference. But the tension hung heavy between them, like a thread woven with unacknowledged pain and hope. "Sorry about that. Work, you know," he said, his voice steady, yet Claire could detect the faltering edge beneath it. What were we talking about? Everything, she answered, emboldened by the time spent in contemplation. I've reached a point where I must reclaim my voice, not just as your daughter, but as Claire, an artist. Her father's expression shifted subtly. A flicker of discomfort crossed his features. Art? It's wonderful as a pastime, but can it truly sustain you? That is a tough road, Claire. His concern, though veiled in practicality, felt like a rejection. She inhaled deeply, pressing against the wave of disappointment. What if it leads me somewhere fulfilling? I've never felt this passionately about anything else. Passion doesn't pay the bills, he countered, irritation creeping into his tone. It doesn't prepare you for the real world, where people have expectations. The word struck like a chord she had long grown weary of hearing, and she realized she had to deflect his objections with concrete resolve. She had spent years living in the shadows of assumed responsibilities, too compliant while her own aspirations dimmed. But you taught me to dream beyond convention. Are you telling me you want me to sacrifice my happiness for the sake of expectation? The room pulsated with unspoken emotions. Her father's gaze fixed upon her, disbelief clouding his features. He was caught between who he had been and who he could possibly support her in becoming. I didn't mean, he began, fumbling for words. There's the family name, Claire. You have it all ahead of you, a respectable career, stability. Art may seem like a fleeting whim. Stability built on a foundation of unfulfilled dreams is not stability at all. It's a prison. Her voice trembled but held the weight of truth. I'll never find joy if I only chase what others deem acceptable. Silence enveloped them, the air charged with the weight of her declaration. She could see the flicker of anguish in his eyes, perhaps a realization that he too had been captive to the ideals set before him. Claire felt an unexpected rush of compassion for him, a complicated blend of frustration and understanding. Yes, it's scary to step away from expectation, she conceded, softer now, but growth often lies in uncertain paths. If I'm to honor our shared past, I can't simply become a replica of your successes. I wish for us both to embrace the unknown. Her father shifted in his seat, visibly straddling the divide between support and apprehension. I just want to protect you, he murmured, almost to himself. Protect me from what? She questioned, unearthing a deeper truth. From betrayal? From disappointment? Or from the possibility of my own greatness? You're not taking into account that pursuing my art is an act of self-preservation and truth. The cascade of her words hung in the air, leaving a haunting silence that seemed disorienting. But a new understanding sparked in her father's eyes, a reluctant acknowledgement that perhaps she was awakening not just her own potential, but his unresolved dreams too. What if I fail? He asked, vulnerability lacing his tone. What if I can't release this need to guard you? Failure is part of growth. It's the discovery process, she countered, half hoping to instill in him the same courage she sought. But I need your trust to explore this side of me. The corners of his mouth twitched as he wrestled with the reality she presented. It's not easy for me to let go, Claire. I see so much of myself in you, and I've built so many expectations around that. Perhaps it's time to redefine those expectations, she suggested, emboldened by the shift in the atmosphere. Let us create a space for both your ideals and my aspirations. As the dialogue swirled about them, Claire felt a profound shift within herself. Each word brought her closer to the woman she longed to become. The journey had already begun, and it felt real, poised on the precipice of transforming both of their lives. With new determination, they sat together in the stillness, and Claire sensed a fragile space forming one that held the potential for more profound truths yet to be discovered. What if I choose to support your art? Her father asked finally, the sincerity in his eyes breaking her heart open with cautious hope. Then we both must be brave, because the road to that acceptance may not be easy, Claire replied, meeting his gaze. She could feel her heart racing, aware of the monumental shifts underway. The next step would involve not just the art she craved to create, but the fragile relationship that would require nurturing amidst the uncertainties they both shared. As they sat there, preparing to redefine their bond, Claire realized that her journey was far from over. She was not just uncovering her identity, but also inviting her father to embark on his own journey towards acceptance. What awaited them was an unequal journey of healing and anticipation, as both father and daughter stood together, yet still apart, ready to face the intricacies of their intertwined futures. Would they find the strength to embrace this shared transformation, or would they falter at the challenges ahead? Claire's pulse quickened as she absorbed her father's unexpected concession. Support shifted the stage of their relationship, transforming their discussions from mere confrontation to something that held the potential for understanding. Yet, despite the budding hope, an undercurrent of uncertainty still tugged at her thoughts. Supporting me means stepping into unfamiliar territory, doesn't it? She asked, testing the waters. It's not just about believing in my art, but believing in what it represents a departure from our past. Her father's brow furrowed, and for a moment, it seemed he might retract his words. Instead, he leaned back, absorbing the weight of her statement. Claire seized the moment, realizing that they were at a crossroads. The future they envisioned was still entwined with the past they had yet to fully examine. How do we arrive here? She wondered aloud, more to provoke dialogue than to seek answers. What dreams anchored you to those expectations you held over me? He pressed his fingertips together, looking out the window as if searching for clarity among the branches swaying in the breeze. I never wanted to impose my dreams on you, he replied slowly. I thought I was safeguarding you from the disappointments I faced. Protecting me by limiting my choices only served to smother my potential, Claire countered, her voice unwavering. You taught me to reach for stars, yet I found myself chained to earth. I need to know if you're willing to break that chain. The silence hung heavily again, this time amplified by Claire's determination. Every breath felt like a chisel chipping away at the wall between them, an entity built with regrets and misunderstanding. The air crackled with possibility as she pressed her hand to her heart, feeling its rapid beats that echoed her resolve. I want this to be a partnership where we both can reclaim our identities, Claire continued, her conviction fortified with each word. Let us not just support one another. Let us collaborate in our growth. You could offer insights that will fortify my art, and I will remind you that dreams are not to be passed down, but lived. Her father's gaze fell to the floor, his internal battle evident. Claire braced herself against the tension that coursed through the room. She needed to create a safe space for his emotional oscillation, but she also needed him to acknowledge that his acceptance was as critical to her journey as her own determination. Let us set a goal, she proposed, her voice softening. I'll make strides in my art, and you can help me hone it. We can arrange scheduled critiques, share thoughts. I need your guidance, even as I carve my own path. His eyebrows lifted, surprise flickering in his eyes. You want my help moving forward with something you chose? The art you've resisted showing me? Yes, because it's who I am, who I want to be, she urged. It's time for you to embrace your own artistic tendencies. Your path shaped mine in so many ways. Never underestimate the power of what you can share with me. The room seemed to shrink with the gravity of this conversation, weighty yet liberating. Claire felt that she was reaching not just for her future, but potentially paving a new path for her father, too. Each daily choice to be authentic and vulnerable was tentative but necessary. What if you don't succeed? He raised, redirecting his apprehension into a fervent question. What if this, but what if I do? She interrupted. That fire ignited inside her, striving to burn away doubts like kindling. Imagine what we could discover, not just for my art, but for you too. Meeting his gaze, Claire saw a flicker in his expression, a grappling with the notion that perhaps his life's script was not rigidly written but could still be edited, revised. Each moment they shared could be a brushstroke on an evolving canvas, blending their experiences into something vibrant and new. As the weight of their discussion filled the room, she realized the belief she sought from her father would not come easy. It would demand ongoing effort, trust-breaking moments, and honest reassessments. She needed to actively pull down the walls he had built around himself, while also clearing the remnants of her own. "Let us start with something small," Claire said, her heart a steady rhythm against the uncertain terrain. "You can critique my first painting. Just one piece. No expectations." The challenge hung in the air, tangible and electric. She watched her father wrestle with the suggestion, a willingness forming alongside trepidation. Hope swelled once again in Claire's chest. This was a new kind of dialogue, one steeped in raw authenticity rather than empirical standards. "All right, I'll do it," he finally replied, his voice laced with tentative humor. "But you can't get mad if I don't hold back." She let out a laugh, the first real connection in this budding exchange. "Deal. I'll need that honesty to grow." But Claire also understood that this endeavor stretched beyond either of them, delving into the fissures of their past wounds. As she stood on the edge of this creative venture, she felt exhilarated yet terrified. What would happen when fragments of her father's history intertwined with her own art? Would their past bind them closer, or would it cast shadows over their new beginnings? With newfound determination, Claire realized that this was just the beginning, and whatever lay ahead would shape not only her artistic journey, but redefine their delicate relationship in ways she couldn't yet fathom. The uncertainty was profound, but Claire tightened her grip on her courage. The unfolding chapters of their intertwined story were just waiting to be written. Would they brace for the unveiling truths submerged within their past, or would they surrender to the forces that sought to keep them apart? Claire's pulse thudded in her ears as she prepared her canvas, the morning sun streaming through the window, casting a warm glow over the space. Today was monumental. It wasn't merely about paint and brushes, but about unearthing layers of vulnerability, both for her and her father. She inhaled deeply, the familiar scent of linseed oil and acrylics filling her lungs, intertwining with the memory of their last conversation, his hesitant promise to critique her work. What if this was the turning point? The thought exhilarated her, but also stoked her anxiety. What if his critique turned out to be more reflective of his own unresolved fears than of her artistry? She brushed those hesitations aside, focusing instead on the confidence she had built over the recent weeks. As she dipped her brush into the vibrant red paint, it felt like the first heartbeat of a new beginning, each stroke a bold declaration against the confines of their past. She worked vigorously, her mind conjuring images of freedom and self-discovery, every movement deliberate yet instinctual. Each brushstroke replaced a seed of doubt with clarity. But then, creeping in, was the thought of how her father would receive this piece. Would he truly see her? Or would he project his own fears onto the canvas? Claire paused, the brush hovering above the surface. She had spent so long entwined in the shadows of his expectations that the fear of disappointment felt like an anchor. "No," she whispered to herself, grounding her resolve. She was painting not for him, but for herself, for the journey of becoming who she was destined to be. When she completed the piece, Claire stepped back and gazed at her work, her breath catching. It was chaotic yet vibrant, a representation of the tumultuous emotions she had navigated in her life. Each color stood for a different facet of her journey. The fiery reds for passion, the deep blues for sorrow, and bright yellows for hope. This artwork was her voice, an anthem sung against the silence of conformity. Just then, the door creaked open, and her father stood framed in the doorway. The first glimpse of his reaction sent her heart racing. His brows furrowed as he took in the intensity of the colors, the raw emotions spilling forth from the canvas. She gestured toward the painting, her throat tightening. "What do you think?" He stepped closer, his gaze scanning the details, his silence heavy with implications. The anticipation knotted in her stomach. It was a direct confrontation, a moment that could redefine everything. She watched as he swallowed hard, the shift in his posture signaling a battle within. As he hesitated, his voice trembling slightly. "This is powerful." Her chest swelled at his response, but soon the doubt returned. Power was subjective. Did he understand the vulnerability behind it? Claire felt like she was teetering on the edge of a precipice, the need for validation clashing with the knowledge that she had created something deeply personal. A flicker of determination surged within her. It's not just about power, Dad. It's about my voice, my experiences. I need you to see that these colors, this chaos, is who I am becoming. For a moment, she thought she saw a glimmer of recognition in his eyes, but it flickered away just as quickly. He stepped back, looking troubled as if the art had stripped bare parts of himself he wasn't ready to confront. Can we really separate the past from who we are now? He asked, his voice thick with the weight of unresolved emotions. Claire's heart sank. The battle was not just hers. It was theirs. That's exactly what I'm trying to do, she replied, urgency creeping into her tone. I want to break free from those limitations. It's time we confront this together. His expression was unreadable, dancing between pride and apprehension. He finally moved to the canvas once again, his fingers brushing the edge. Am I? Yes. Claire cut him off, a clear invitation shimmering between them. And you can be honest. It won't break me. It'll help me grow. As he stood there, faced with a reflection of their joint past, Claire held her breath, feeling as if they were both suspended above a chasm. Would they leap into vulnerability together, or would the weight of their shared history pull them back into silence? With that unspoken tension hanging heavy in the air, Claire realized that revealing the depths of their emotions demanded more than just a conversation. It required a willingness to explore the shadows that lingered between them. As her heart raced, she wondered whether this unveiling would yield growth or further distance. But one thing was certain. Their journey was only beginning, and the canvas of their relationship needed more than a single stroke to uncover its true artistry. Would they dare to explore the layers beneath the surface, or would fear continue to dictate their actions? As the moments stretched between them, Claire held her breath, anticipating the first crack in the fortress of unexpressed emotions that had bound them for so long. Her father finally exhaled, the pressure of silence dissipating as he prepared to speak. This painting, it's more than I expected, he began, his voice trembling with sincerity. It isn't just chaotic. It's a reflection of real struggle and desire. With each word, Claire felt the heaviness in her chest lift slightly. It is my struggle. I've spent too long sidelining my dreams, too long caught in expectations that suffocated my voice, she emphasized, her gaze unwavering as it met his. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years. The distance that had existed in their father-daughter dynamic began to blur. I never wanted you to feel trapped, Claire. I just thought I was protecting you from disappointment. I wanted you to find success in the ways I saw fit, stable career paths that wouldn't lead you astray. Success doesn't have a one-size-fits-all definition, Claire countered, emboldened by the moment. What you view as success doesn't resonate with me. I need to forge my own path. This painting, this conversation, challenges me to break free from those inherited notions. Her father's brow furrowed in contemplation, and she sensed a flicker of understanding flickering behind his stern exterior. But what if you fail? What if the art world doesn't welcome you? Each question was a crack in the wall still rooted in concern, yet tinged with an openness she hadn't expected. Failure is a part of growth, she answered, her voice steady with conviction. Every artist faces rejection. What matters is my unwavering desire to create and share my truth. And I can't do this alone. I need you in my corner, not just as my dad, but as my ally. He fell silent, the weight of her honesty settling between them like a blanket. A war raged behind his eyes, years of comfort and predictability, battling against the desire to embrace change. Do you really believe I can help you navigate this? I haven't been the most supportive father when it comes to your artistry, he mused, a hint of vulnerability threading through his tone. Yes, I do, she affirmed, the warmth of his acceptance pulsing through her. Your experience, your artistic past, it can guide me. Just as I'm ready to accept the discomfort of beginning anew, all I ask is for you to embark on this journey with me. The silence that followed felt liberating. Time hung suspended in the air like a masterpiece waiting to form. She could sense their dynamic was shifting, evolving from mere familial ties to a partnership poised on the brink of mutual growth. Let's start small, as you suggested. He hesitated, glancing at the canvas again. I'd like to enjoy a studio visit with you and engage with other artists. I want to be a part of your journey, Claire, not just from a distance. A spark ignited within her. Really? You'd do that? You'd share in this? The prospect felt unreal. This was the opening she had longed for. Yes, I see the depth of your passion in your work, Claire. It might take time for me to fully understand your world, but I'm willing to try. Suddenly, the laughter of history echoed between them, a bridge gradually forming between their disparate ideas of fulfillment. Each exchange was painted with shades of newfound trust, layers of understanding enveloping their relationship. Thank you, she breathed, overwhelmed by the enormity of their conversation. This means so much to me, and I promise to nurture both my art and our connection. Before either of them knew it, their dialogue had transcended into a shared commitment, a pact to uplift rather than confine, to explore rather than limit. Claire felt the soft rising of hope as they both stood at the precipice of transformation, poised to leap into a world filled with possibilities. Together, they would navigate not just the complexities of art, but the labyrinth of their relationship. The moments that lay ahead would be filled with trials, the unique brushstrokes of challenge woven among the fabric of their journeys. The mural they would create together would transcend mere canvases, morphing into the canvas of life they would both enrich. With their acceptance of each other as paths, Claire sensed an invigorating rebirth, a profound metamorphosis that would inform their future. As they stood there side by side, meaningfully silent yet filled with new intentions, Claire heard the whispers of her dreams reconcile with tangible plans. She understood that the results would not arrive at once. Their endeavor would unfold like paint on a canvas, layered, textured, with evidence of growth and authenticity. It was truly time to embrace the slap of colors, the emergence of shapes. They would now both create not only art, but a legacy intertwined deeply with the threads of their shared essence. As father and daughter, they would exchange brushes and palettes, crafting two lives into one masterpiece, each stroke an affirmation of trust, bravery, and a future unfolding beneath their fingertips. They were no longer bound by the past. They had both claimed agency over their futures, forging two unique paths woven together through acceptance and understanding. With everything ahead of them, Claire finally felt that she was ready to truly live. The journey for both of them had just begun. Now, this is the moment where you need to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support can make a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear your thoughts. And above all, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.